Leadership Council for Metropolitan. She was there for quite a bit, did a lot of work around fair housing. So really her perspective will really help us shape what was happening then, what we be doing today, and any other insights and wisdom we can share. Bruce Forrestein is actually an artist in residence at Duke University. This is his baby, right? Because of the color tax. He's basically turned to filmmaking back in 1991. He founded something called the Chicago Video Project and actually won awards for that. And this particular part of the university that he's an artist in residency is at Samuel Duval Cook Center on Social Equity at Duke. And so a lot of the work that he does is based in social equity, racial equity, and so thank you for being here tonight. And he flew in to even be here tonight, so I appreciate that. Many of you may know Rob or not. Rob Rose is the executive director of the Cook County Land Bank. As most of the homes that you see that are boarded up, a lot of them are owned by the Cook County Land Bank. The Cook County Land, Rob is, well, it's like Rob, it's the Cook County Land Bank. But Rob actually, expertise comes, I met him when he was at the Chicago Community Loan Fund, which is a funder of mine as a small developer in a lot of commercial spaces. He did that and oversee a $170 million loan portfolio as a director of commercial real estate for Urban Partnership Bank as well. So now he's in the ED role at Cook County Land Bank, has worked closely with this task force and many other organizations. So thank you for being here today, Rob. And then Amber Henley, I'm sorry, go back to your right. She got the smallest one, but very, very powerful. She is very, very powerful. She's actually the executive director of a new organization called Restitution Homes, right, in Chicago. And so Amber work really was the researcher on a lot of the data that we got. So the map that she has, that we distributed, was some of the data sets that she found in Inglewood with the alarming number of contract buying that happened in 60621 and 60626. She basically completed her Master in Analytical Political Economy program at Duke University, and a lot of her work is also in the Plunder of Black Wealth in Chicago report. If you have not seen that, please download that report. I think we sent it to the task force, but if not, we will send it again. Thank you, Amber, for being here as well. So, without further ado, I'll let MJ maybe start with the questions. Just on the film, so you can freestyle it heavily. Oh, yeah. He was here early.
Well, she wasn't. So again, folks will step in a little bit later. I'm MJ. I'm the Inglewood Quality of Life Project Manager. What that is, I am staff at Pure Inglewood, supporting comprehensive community planning effort led by residents. And
oh yes, I am Aisha Butler. If you just walked in, the president of R.A.G.E, Resident Association of Greater Inglewood, also a member of the Housing and Public Spaces Task Force and the lead organizer for the Buy the Block campaign.
Okay, cool. I'll start with the general question to the panel, and then we'll get into specific questions. You know, we got to be friendly. So, after you all, I know this probably isn't the first time that most of you see the film, especially. So, seeing this film in this particular place today, what are your initial feelings or reflections on historically its implications, and how do you think it shows up?
Can I jump? I'm the oldest person.
Yes.
So you all shut me up in the meeting. Yes. But I also grew up around the corner, and Bruce drove me by my mother's house, 59 Great South Peoria. And I will say to you, first of all, thank you for the idea to come back home to Inglewood, which is this home to me. And Bruce knows this because I said it during the The history of Inglewood is a powerful national history that gets untold and unappreciated. And as I rolled through it, it brought almost tears to me yesterday. Because this was where Inglewood Hospital was. Yep. And the first black pharmacist I ever knew in my life lived on my block, had a pharmacy right across the street on what would be 59th and Halsted. And the history of an Inglewood that empowered a person like me, mother attended education in Alabama, she was the help. I was a single parent, raised my two daughters, had 3 degrees, graduated from Field School, now working, graduated from Inglewood High School, and went on. All of that was based on the community, because my mother was one person. But the community empowered me and others. For example, first African American female alderman, Anna Langford, 63rd and West End. Harold Washington's office, law, 63rd and Peoria, and the summer he gave out snow cones. That's the only reason I would go there and write. And he got to doing it, giving snow cones. 7th District Police Commander, Fred Rice, became the first African American police superintendent in the city of Chicago. Carol Mosley Brown went to Parker High School, changed to Paul Roach, first African American female senator in the United States. All of that history, I was blessed to be, and where is it? Dorothy Detroit, not in Inglewood, but another national commitment, filed a lawsuit against Chicago Housing Authority, the first in the country to go before the United States Supreme Court. So all that to say, Inglewood is a pride and joy, and I thank you all for inviting me back to the work you do. Because the younger people, the young city folk, and the old city folk really don't appreciate all of what Inglewood has done. I think that Bruce's film, and Bruce talked to me about when he was thinking about it, really puts context to the structural issues that impacted the Black community, and particularly a Black community that was owned by the machine. I'm gonna call it, I don't report to nobody. and it's in the book of Civil Rights in Chicago, Civil Rights, because we call it Master Daily. Master Daily determined what would happen in communities, and particularly communities on the south side, because Bridgeport was down the street, the steel mills were down the street. All of this was a part of what Inglewood had going for it, in addition to 63rd and Austin, the second largest business district in downtown Chicago in the 50s. So I say all that to say what Bruce has done and what all of you have done by coming here is facing history. You can't fix it if you don't face it. And I think what Bruce's film, heartbreaking as it is for me to drive around and see, and I apologize for thinking that it had been fixed, that the structural things that need to be done, and I heard you talk about it, have to be specific. They have to be defined, and we, and I do say we, have to be emboldened to demand them. Because if not, then you have a person like me who left here 40 years ago, thinking, oh, it's all done, and we can do it, and come back, and he made reference to Detroit, and as my daughter who lived in New York 20-some years ago, Inglewood is Detroit, and the north side of Chicago is Manhattan. But we are one in this city, and I think that you're doing demands that by just positioning yourself. And I am pleased and honored to be here, and I apologize for thinking because a few people like me did it. It was done, and what was done then needs to be done even more so now, with more emphasis on structure.
Let me build on that a little bit if I could. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's really a pleasure to show the film here, and I'm really interested in getting your feedback and reactions to it. We've only showed it to small numbers of people so far, and it's part of a larger series called The Chamber of Chicago. So those other episodes haven't even been produced yet. So we're looking for all kinds of feedback, and if you've got stories, please write your name down on the survey form, because I want to find people with stories. And if you don't have a story, Mrs. Grayson down the block, or whoever who was here back in the 50s or 60s, might have a story. I want to hear about that. I was a community organizer prior to becoming a filmmaker. And so as a community organizer, I know that in more economically challenged neighborhoods and low-income neighborhoods, there's a lot of regular people, not just the Carol Mosey Brauns and the Harold Washingtons, who are really amazing people who, in the face of all this structural kind of assault that comes at them, are able to, fight for improvements in the community, and means really it's civil rights or And so I was a community organizer mostly on the southeast side of Chicago, but I knew a lot of folks who were organizing in Maplewood and who were working with Acorn at the time, and then I think it was Action Now, and some just amazing, amazing people. So, you know, the people who are working here now, and I heard them make the call out for, you know, get involved. Absolutely, the call get involved. There's, you know, not just because you think, because people are saying we need you, but it's I don't know, it's life fulfilling to be engaged in that way, and so I encourage that. And so I don't know, I just wanted to build on that. There's so many community leaders that, in the face of all these structural challenges, have, you know, overcome a lot and keep plugging away and keep, you know, keep the community going.
I'm gonna switch it up a little bit for Rob because, as Ari said, it's this huge elephant in the room of structural racism that got us to the point that we're even watching a film like this, right? And I know Cook County Land Bank is it's a government institution, but it's also, you know, trying to do things to rectify some of the issues. Could you talk about any specific things that the Cook County Land Bank has that can kind of ensure history does not repeat itself in communities like Inglewood?
Sure. So first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me in. You know, the book Family Properties is one that I've read several times, especially as I took on this role at the land bank. I think it's important to understand where you've come from so that you'll have a good idea of where you need to go. And when we talk about the structural racism and the impediments that are laid out in the book that were displayed here on the film, I think you have to have a greater appreciation for just how oppressive of a system that it is or was, and then we have a lot of that still carries through today, right? And so, you know, things that are so innocuous, we think of them and we still think it's fair when it's structurally imbalanced, right? So, you know, I'll give you one example. So if you've gotten a house loan, you know, in the last, 50 years or so, when they come out to do your appraisal, that appraisal of itself is already biased, right? Already, just the fact that they're doing the appraisal. Why do I say that? When we had the Great Recession, right? When the market collapsed, not one bank collected money based on value, right? The people that lost their houses lost them because they lost their ability to pay. They lost their jobs. That's the cause of them lose the house. When they took the house back, they quickly realized they couldn't sell the house on value, right? Now, why do I say that? Because when they loan you the money, they loan it on value, right? Loan to value. Got to have a ratio, right? And it limits what you can borrow. So if you're in an area with low values, there's less money you can borrow to buy the house that you want to buy, even if that's the price that you want to buy it for, even if it has everything that you want to have in it. You know, so when we think of that loan to value, like, yeah, it's a ratio. We got this and that ratio, whatever. But all of these systems are already built on top of a broken system. So part of what we have to look at is how do we actually correct the system itself? How do we change that around? So at the land bank, one of the things that we do when we are talking about property, so we acquire vacant abandoned properties. I do want to correct, we have options or certificates on a lot of properties in Inglewood. We don't own it. The stuff that we own, we've been able to find good community developers like yourself to go in and rehab those and turn those around. But we're working on getting options on more and more properties so we can have more and more community developers work with us to be able to rehab the neighborhoods. But when we have a property that we identify, what I don't do is we don't auction off the property. This is very common, banks and whatever. Here's some distressed properties, I'm gonna have an auction, right? And what happens is the person with the most money winds up buying all the properties, right? Again, you're building a structural impediment into the process. So if I come and I don't have as big a checkbook, I'm already behind the 8 ball trying to rehab the neighborhoods, trying to get properties. Then all those properties end up back in the hands of another person that got us there in the first place. So we don't auction our properties. We hold the line on the property. We sell it to the person in the group that we think is going to do the best job. Okay? The other thing that we don't do, when you come to, so we're a county agency, and if you ever done work with the county and you're black, the first thing they say is, are you MBE, WBE certified? And if you're not, they do not want to do business with you, or they highly encourage you to go get your certification. You don't need to be certified to work with the land bank. I know you're black. I know you're a woman. I'll mark it down and we keep it stepping. Because it's not important about the certification, it's important about the work that you want to do. So when you come in, you don't have to be certified to do business with us. There's no extra paperwork that you fill out because you're black and you want to do business with the land bank. Okay? R.A.G.E, right? New organization. She had no part of her time to work with us in an established organization. They had to have the LLC established. That takes you all of 2 days to do that with the state. They've reduced the fees to form an LLC. And now it's only $150 versus the $500 it used to be. Right? So you can have a newly formed LLC work with us. What's important is that you got a team that has the ability to get the job done, and you have access to some capital, right? And there's groups like the Chicago Community Loan Fund that's working to be able to provide the capital to you. So if you want to work with the land bank, you need a plan for the property, you need a team that can execute, and you need access to some monies to make it work. And I say some monies because we're not talking that you got to show me I got a $500,000 line of credit. I'm saying, do you have enough, our properties, the property we sold you, how much we sold you? $10,000. Now, if you can't cobble together as a group, as a collective, I ain't saying individually, $10,000 to buy the property, and then be able to get the rehab funds to put that together, your rehab budget is what, 80?
It's about, I know it's a little bit over 100, it's a complete cover, yeah.
Okay, we'll leave out rehab 100,000, and then you'll be able to sell that for
At least 175, 180.
right, which is still going to be affordable to a large number of people. But the difference is, I could have gone to any group that would have done that. Now, what they would have done is that they would have wanted to buy the property for me for $10,000. They would have put maybe $50,000 into it, or 40, right? And then they would turn around and rent it for $1,100 a month, right? And that's the story of what we see when we have groups that have access to the kind of inventory we have, and the way in which they rebuild the community. And they turn them into big rental communities, and they strip the wealth, continue to strip the wealth out. The way we talk about it happens here, that's how it's done. At the end of the foreclosure crisis, huge amounts of money, hundreds of millions of dollars went to these hedge funds, and they start buying up properties on the cheap. They started rehabbing them, and they started renting them out, and they started putting Section 8 in some, market rate in some. But the whole thing was they wanted to create a huge rental portfolio, get that cash flow, and then sell those pieces off to Wall Street. And they did. And they did. So groups like the Land Bank, we find that we are a direct competitor to those volume buyers. Right? We have the ability to get properties through taxes, which they cannot do, and we don't sell to them. We don't sell, in fact, we don't sell to out-of-state buyers. Okay? And we have a preference for folks in the neighborhood. Alicia Sanders, I always do is raise your hand. I'm embarrassed. No, that's you. Alicia Sanders, raise your hand. There you go, Alicia. So Alicia is one of the members of my staff, and she specifically works here in Inglewood. If you're looking to buy a property and it's going through the process, and there's somebody at the other end that's evaluating your application, it's Alicia. Then Alicia gives a recommendation to me, and we go with who we're going to have buy the property. This is no computer making a decision. This is no in a black box. It's people on the other end reading and understanding. Alicia spends 3 days in the market, coming to look at your projects, looking at the buildings, better understanding what's happening, getting to know organizations. She's a member of the task force as well, trying to understand what people are trying to do and how we can be able to help to do that. So what are we doing structurally? Structurally, we're not trying to do this thing fast, right? You build it fast, it goes down fast. That's what a bubble is. What we're trying to do is we're trying to do it right. And we're trying to do where we can include folks in the neighborhood. Now, everybody in the neighborhood ain't meant to rehab houses. Okay? Everybody in the neighborhood ain't meant to do this work, but everybody in the neighborhood can have an input and can work next to somebody to do this. So that when something happens on the block, you know what's happening, you're a part of it in some way, that you can reach out to someone and give you inputs about what's happening. More so, there's an opportunity. When we talk, I'll say this one quickly, and I'll let it go. Right, I know, you pull it, right. We talk about wealth building in the Black community. For real estate, we talk about three things that we gotta have. You gotta have access to the information, right? Whether it's education, information, how the game works, you gotta have access to that. And people are working to provide that. You gotta have access to credit. You gotta have the money to be able to do it and access to it. And people are working on that. The third thing you gotta have, and this is something that we have been long denied as Black people, is access to inventory. This was the racial restrictive covenants. This was people firebombing houses when you bought a house if you could afford a mortgage. This is the cops showing up and arresting you. This is all the things that happen to deny you access to the inventory, even if you had the money, and even if you had the education to be able to do it. What we're doing is we're working to make sure that you have access to the inventory, so that when you go out to buy something from the land bank, it's on the website, it's open, it's public, for you to be able to put your bid in and to work on that. So what we want to do is open this up so that anyone who wants to work with us can. We need more than a handful of developers, wholesale developers, to make them money. We need as many hands on deck if we're going to rebuild these neighborhoods. And so when I'm talking with you, if two people in this room are able to now work with us to be developers, this is a meeting well worth it, because we've got two more people to join us in this fight to be able to rebuild these neighborhoods.
All right, Amber, for you, being that you're a new executive director and have experience as a researcher, one of the key researchers for this project, how do you see what you've researched and the data you've collected, its implications for what's currently going on in Inglewood, or sort of like the unequal playing field we're currently standing on?
Will you rephrase that?
Yes. In your research, what are some insights that you gained around the Inglewood community, and potentially what could it mean for currently what's going on in the community?
Okay. So my focus when I was doing this research was making arguments for reparations and coming up with values for reparations. And through this research, I realized that's virtually impossible because there's just so many ways there were losses that can't necessarily be calculated. And so since my focus was just on the loss, I'm not exactly sure how to translate that into what we can do, except certain things like restitution homes are by the block. And so the first question that was posed that I kind of was mulling over was what insights from the video, and I hadn't seen it since May. And one of the comments was that the Boltons decided that they would never buy again. And I saw statistics for Inglewood that 75% roughly are renters in this community area. And so I was curious as to how much of that is connected to what happened to them. And I work currently at Roosevelt University, and one of my student research fellows has taken an urban inequality class. And I asked her what they're teaching. And they had talked about public housing, and they talked about vouchers. And there was a comment, so they were talking about how all of these systems are not working. But then the professor mentioned that buying homes for Black people is actually worse. They're better off renting. And so that bothered me, but at the end of the day, when we think about contract selling, sometimes the loss is worse. So I'm trying to understand how to use that calculation, because the number keeps growing for me. I also calculated the homes that were purchased. So you guys have the handout with the addresses for Inglewood, the house that the contract seller, or the price that the contract seller paid, what the speculator paid. I also calculated present day values, what those homes currently go for. And in community areas like Avondale, houses appreciate at 4.4% about every year. When I calculated what those homes would have appreciated at, it was negative 1.1. So I'm sorry, like my mind questioned. I'm not
Yeah, go for it.
But the thoughts started to go when I'm looking at this, because there's a loss on appreciation. And we know that the value of a home relates to property taxes being higher, and that goes to education, and that goes to facilities and infrastructures. It just keeps building and it just keeps building. So things like the land bank, and what they're doing with Buy the Block, I think those are the solutions. This is 3 generations. 1955 was the oldest home in our data set, and I did another calculation, lots of calculations, and that's 3 generations that this has been happening, and there have been more and more discriminatory practices, and the structures have not been fixed. And so I'm a millennial, that's like the instant gratification generation, and what kept going to me when I was watching this again is that this is going to take a really long time to fix.
Can I just add, I'm sorry, and I'm also a lawyer, so y'all one of the structural things that you talked about that has not been fixed, and God, I hope I live to see it get fixed, is how we pay for public schools. Because as long as public schools in this state are based upon taxes of a zip code, then when I grew up on 60621, and about 80% of the people were homeless, including my parents, then you could have Inglewood High School. Then you could have 4 strong public elementary schools. When you pull out the home buyers, what you have done structurally is undermine the public education of this city, which is why they're going on strike. I don't want to talk about that. But the reality is, and it's been proven by Massachusetts of all places, that you don't have to do it that way. And if we structurally look at it, and I've learned not to just look at it as housing, segregation, and racism, but structural racism as it impacts upon all of the community, including healthcare. I'm on the board of Russia, hospital. Then unless you connect all those dots, you will not structurally fix anything. Because that was Inglewood Hospital, where I took my daughter when she fell, and I didn't have a car, and I ran her to the emergency room. Access to healthcare defines how long you live in this city. So we have to combine all of our thinking, and I love your policy, the task force is talking about public safety, because there's a book, the how inequality kills, Dr. What's his name? And thank you, David Anderson. Like I'm on the board of David Anderson. That book describes exactly everything we're talking about, from housing, healthcare, to all of the above. So when we talk about it, and you're right, just getting the data doesn't lead you to reparations. That book does. Because when it says how systemically, and I'm a living witness of how systemically money was drawn from England, then you can systemically show how money can be restored.
Go in and then we can open it up.
Okay, one thing that I wanted to really wanted to get that story across about the contract buyers league, because that's what I think really is a lesson we can take for today. And before I get into that, actually, the guy who was organizing the contract buyers league, Jack McNamara, in the film, is in the back. Jack and Clyde Ross and all those leaders of the contract buyers, they really understood clearly is that they needed some leverage, right? They needed real leverage. And that's why they organized their league, and that cooperative effort gave them some leverage with the contract sellers. So when I think of the land bank today, I think, what is the leverage you have in this community, right? And the leverage, the potential leverage to me, is the land, right? As you were saying, So what is to stop? I mean, now the way I understand it is you can buy a piece, if you live next door to a vacant piece of land that is part of the land bank, you can buy it for $1 and take care of it, right?
So no, that's the city's program, but yeah.
And it still ain't $1.
Right.
It ain't $1.
Right. So yeah, but we do sell a lot of the land that we sell are to the side as a side lot to the existing homeowners.
So what would that cost the homeowner?
In Inglewood, 1,500.
25.
25
to 45,000 for the city of South.
No.
I'm 200. I'm sorry. 100. The city is selling vacant adjacent properties $4,500 if the property is next to your lot. If it's not owned by the land bank, if it's not on the dollar lot list, which the program has been on stall for quite some time, then it's $4,500 under the city adjacent property.
Right, and for us, our properties are anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500.
Yeah, but it is a large lot program that's stalled right now that does give you the opportunity to buy a lot for $1.
But I'll say, to your point, the leverage is not only do we have the land, but who do we sell it to?
Well, but if you have the land and you've got a cooperative throughout the whole Englewood community,
Correct.
and for whatever, and then you've got X amount of property, then you can start negotiating with developers for this is the way we'd like to develop.
Yeah,
this
I
is the
think
way.
that's happening.
Yeah, that's happening now, and I go one step further, and what we're encouraging
Yeah.
is that the developers are also part of this community, right? So instead of me having to go to a group and saying, sir, could you come please develop our land? But we can develop that talent in this community to come and develop the land. So part of it is saying that we've tried the Mother May I approach. That day is done. We gotta take control of our destiny, and there's enough tools that we have to do that. We've got enough talent within the community to do it. We've got the political will within the community to do it, and we've got enough systems to try it. In Chicago, if we don't take advantage of the moment of having a black mayor, a black county president, black head of CHA, right, black superintendent for police, boom, 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 black, if we can't take advantage of that right now, then we some new fools, right? Because this is an opportunity for us to leverage all these different systems that we know where the issue has been, the pain points have been, to be able to move forward with an agenda that's gonna help us out. And the fact is that we make money and we make time for what we value, right? And so there's no reason why we can't be leveraging that to get these things done. And so the land bank is a part of that and working in tandem with that. But it really is going to be, to your point, ma'am, it's going to have to be a comprehensive approach. And we've got to take it from here to your ward to City Hall to be able to the state to be able to get some of these things changed. I mean, you talk about funding schools. We're talking about we have so many units of government. We've got pension reform that we've got to really get our hands on. We've got these structural impediments that cause us to have to tax more and more and more. And so what happens is, right, the people who have options leave, right? And then the people that stay get doubly and triply taxed. And then it becomes a vicious cycle. So we've got to find ways to break that.
So with that, I know we have some questions. I think originally what we're gonna do is people handing no cards.
Yeah, they have no cards. If anyone had a question or I don't know if you told them that. But yeah, you have already done it.
We don't have no, we can probably pop
If you
one
don't,
folks didn't.
yeah, if you don't.
Yeah, I need one. Yeah.
Alright, so because not everyone uses the no card with popcorn, I saw a hand pop up.
Yeah.
Alright, go.
Yeah.
I just